There are stories we stumble upon in life that shake us to our very core, stories that remind us of both the fragility and resilience of the human heart. This is one of them. It is not the story of a famous figure or a historical event that made the headlines. It is a story of an ordinary woman, someone you would have walked past on the street without noticing, someone who quietly carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. Her name was Anna, a single mother who lived her life with unyielding strength, and whose love for her only child, David, became the very reason she concealed the truth about herself. To the outside world, Anna appeared strong, even unbreakable. She worked tirelessly, smiling whenever her son looked her way, making sure he believed that she had everything under control. Yet behind the closed doors of her modest apartment, Anna carried a secret, a devastating illness slowly consuming her from within. She endured its pain in silence, determined that her son should never know, because she wanted him to grow up free of worry, focused on his studies, his dreams, and his future. It is easy to underestimate what parents do for their children until the truth comes to light, often when it is already too late. For David, that truth shattered him. By the time he discovered what his mother had been hiding, years had slipped away, and regret weighed heavily on his heart. He remembered every late-night meal she cooked, every warm smile she forced through her fatigue, and every reassurance she gave when money was tight. Only then did he understand the full cost of her sacrifices. This story is not simply about illness or loss. It is about love in its purest form, sacrificial, silent, and steadfast. It is a reminder to cherish the ones who stand behind us quietly, who ask for nothing yet give us everything. And it is a call to open our eyes before life makes us realize too late what was always right in front of us. Anna never planned on raising a child alone, but life had other ideas. When she was just 24, she gave birth to David. His father had walked away months before, unable to handle the responsibility that loomed ahead. Though heartbroken, Anna made a promise to herself and to her newborn son. She would give him everything she could, no matter how difficult the road ahead became. Those early years were a blur of sleepless nights, endless work shifts, and moments of quiet joy that made the struggles worth it. Anna worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices during the day and waiting tables at a small diner at night. She rarely allowed herself rest, but whenever David looked up at her with those curious eyes, she felt an energy that pushed her beyond her limits. Despite the fatigue that clung to her bones, she kept a home filled with warmth. Their small apartment was modest, but it radiated love. She decorated David's room with bright posters of rockets and planets, knowing how much he loved the stars. She read to him every night, her voice soft and steady, even when exhaustion made her eyelids heavy. Neighbors often wondered how she managed. Some offered help, but Anna politely declined. She didn't want pity. She didn't want David to grow up feeling like they were less than anyone else. She wanted him to believe, wholeheartedly, that his life was as complete and happy as any other child's. David, in his innocence, believed it all. He didn't see the worry etched into his mother's face after paying bills. He didn't notice the way she clutched her chest when he wasn't looking, or the nights she stayed up coughing quietly into her pillow. To him, she was unshakable. She was simply Mom, his entire world. When David entered elementary school, Anna pushed herself even harder. She wanted him to have the best start possible. She packed his lunches with care, attended every school event, and cheered the loudest during his soccer games, even if she had just come off a double shift. Teachers often commented on how bright and kind David was, and Anna's heart swelled with pride. But as David grew, so did Anna's illness. It began with fatigue she couldn't shake. Then came dizziness, headaches, and occasional fainting spells. She told no one. Not her coworkers. Not her friends. Not even her doctor, because she avoided medical visits altogether. She couldn't afford both treatments and tuition savings, and for her, the choice was obvious. Her son's future came first. By the time David reached middle school, Anna's illness was advancing. Her once boundless energy began to falter. She hid it skillfully, but there were cracks in her mask. Sometimes she burned dinner because she had fallen asleep at the stove. Sometimes she forgot simple things, like where she had left her keys or the groceries she had meant to buy. David, still too young to see the bigger picture, thought it was just normal forgetfulness. He laughed it off, teasing her gently, and Anna would laugh with him, masking the worry in her eyes. The truth was crueler than she could bear to admit. Doctors had told her, years ago, that her condition, an aggressive autoimmune disease, would worsen over time. With treatment, she might slow its progress, but treatment was expensive. And so, Anna chose silence. She told herself that as long as she could keep working, as long as she could provide, she could endure the pain. When David asked why she worked so much, Anna would smile and say, "Because I want you to have a better life than I did." He believed her. He didn't know that every hour she pushed through brought her body closer to collapse. In high school, David began to notice more. She seemed thinner, paler. There were mornings when she struggled to get out of bed, though she always forced herself to. He once caught her gripping the counter, trembling, as she tried to steady herself. When he asked if she was okay, she brushed it off. "Just tired, sweetheart. Nothing to worry about." And he didn't press further. Because he trusted her. Because to him, she had always been the strongest person he knew. What Anna didn't realize was that her silence was planting seeds of guilt that would one day haunt him. David could hardly believe what he had just read. The letters he discovered in the old shoebox hidden at the back of the closet revealed a reality he had never imagined. His mother, Anna, had been fighting a serious illness for years, alone. The neat, careful handwriting described medical appointments, long nights of exhaustion, and the constant fear that her condition might prevent her from working. Yet every letter ended with the same refrain, "I must keep going," for David. His hands trembled as he set the papers down. Memories flooded his mind, her falling asleep at the dinner table after a double shift, her persistent coughs she always dismissed as just a cold, the way she sometimes winced when lifting groceries. He had brushed it all off, never suspecting the truth. David remembered one particular night when he was 15. He had woken to the sound of muffled coughing from her bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and he had peeked in. She was sitting on the edge of her bed, shoulders shaking, a damp towel pressed against her lips. When he asked if she was okay, she smiled faintly and told him not to worry, that it was just allergies. He believed her. Now, looking back, the truth cut him like a blade. The weight of guilt settled over him like a suffocating blanket. How could he have missed it? How could he have been so blind? For years, he had been consumed with his studies, his friends, his dreams of leaving their small town. He hadn't seen the silent battle she was waging just a few feet away. David sat down heavily on the edge of the bed, clutching one of the letters to his chest. In that moment, he felt like a child again, lost, vulnerable, and aching for answers. The words she had written were filled not with bitterness or regret, but with love. She never once blamed him for not noticing, never once expressed resentment for carrying the weight alone. Instead, every sentence radiated pride in his accomplishments and hope for his future. The realization broke him. His mother had chosen to hide her suffering, not out of shame, but out of love. She wanted to shield him from the heaviness of her illness, to give him the chance to grow without worry. While he was chasing his future, she was sacrificing her present. David's mind wandered back to the day he left for college. She had hugged him so tightly that he almost couldn't breathe. He remembered her whispering, "I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. Just focus on your dreams." At the time, he thought it was just a mother's usual parting words. Now he realized the weight behind them. She had been lying through her pain to give him freedom. His chest tightened with an ache that words couldn't contain. He had thought she was invincible, that no matter how hard life became, she would always be there holding everything together. But she was human, and she had limits. And still, she bore the unbearable alone. David picked up another letter. This one was written only a year ago. Her words were shakier, the lines less steady. She described collapsing after a long shift but forcing herself back to work the next day. "David is doing so well," she wrote. "I can't let him see me weak. He must believe I am strong." Tears blurred David's vision. He pressed the paper to his lips, whispering, "I would have loved you no matter what, Mom. You didn't have to hide." But his words dissolved into the emptiness of the room. As evening shadows lengthened across the walls, David made a silent vow. He couldn't undo the years of her hidden pain, but he could choose differently now. He could be there for her, not as the child who once depended on her, but as the man she had raised him to be. He folded the letters carefully and placed them back into the shoebox, his hands steady with new resolve. For the first time, he understood the depth of her sacrifice. His mother had spent her life giving him strength, even when she had none left for herself, and now, it was his turn to give back. The next morning, David woke with a heaviness that refused to lift. The shoebox of letters still sat on his desk, like a silent witness to everything he had failed to see. He couldn't bring himself to eat. Every bite would feel stolen from the strength his mother had spent years forcing into his life. He sat by the kitchen window, staring out at the small backyard where Anna had once grown tomatoes and herbs. He could picture her kneeling in the dirt, wearing her worn-out gloves, humming softly as she worked. She always insisted on growing fresh vegetables to save money, even when the soil fought against her. David now realized that every tomato, every sprig of basil, had been more than food. It was her way of keeping him healthy while she quietly grew weaker. A surge of determination welled inside him. He couldn't sit idly by anymore. He had to act. For years, his mother had carried the burden alone. Now it was his turn to carry it with her. David grabbed his jacket and drove straight to the small clinic where she had been receiving treatment, the name of the doctor scrawled in one of the letters. His stomach twisted as he walked in, half dreading what he might hear. Dr. Patel, he asked at the reception desk. Minutes later, he sat in a modest office across from a middle-aged man with kind but weary eyes. When David explained who he was, Dr. Patel sighed heavily, folding his hands. David, the doctor began gently, your mother is one of the strongest patients I've ever met. She has been battling this condition for years, far longer than many could endure. But she insisted on privacy. She didn't want you to know. David's throat tightened. She hid everything from me. But why? Why would she go through all this alone? Dr. Patel gave a small, understanding smile. Because she loves you. She believed that if you knew, you might give up opportunities. Hold yourself back. She wanted you free. That's the kind of mother she is. David lowered his face into his hands. Guilt crashed over him again, sharper than before. I should have seen it. I should have been there. Don't punish yourself, the doctor said softly. She never wanted your pity. She wanted your pride. And she has it, believe me. David left the clinic with a heart heavier than stone but also burning with resolve. He couldn't change the past, but he could change the present. He drove straight home, determined to confront his mother, not with anger, but with love. When he walked through the door, he found her sitting at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. The look on her face when she saw him said everything. She knew. She knew he had discovered her secret. Mom, David said, his voice shaking. Anna's eyes softened, though there was resignation in them. You found the letters. He nodded, unable to hold back tears. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you carry this all alone? Her lips curved into a sad, gentle smile. Because you deserved better than to grow up under the shadow of my illness. You deserved freedom, not fear. I didn't want you looking at me with worry instead of love. David fell to his knees beside her chair, taking her frail hands in his. I would have loved you no matter what. Don't you see that? I could have helped you. I wanted to help you. Tears welled in her eyes, but she shook her head. You've helped me more than you know. Every time I saw you succeed, every time you smiled, it gave me the strength to keep going. You were my reason. Her words pierced his heart. He realized then that his mother had not lived in denial, she had lived in sacrifice. She had chosen love over her own comfort, hope over despair. David rested his forehead against her hands. Then let me be your reason now. Please, Mom. Let me take care of you. Let me be here, the way you were always there for me. Anna studied his face for a long moment. Finally, she nodded, her lips trembling. All right, David. I can't hide anymore. The moment was small, almost ordinary, a son holding his mother's hand in a quiet kitchen. Yet for David, it was monumental. The walls of secrecy had crumbled. For the first time, they stood on the same side of the truth. That night, David made a promise to himself. He would not waste another second. His mother had spent her life giving him strength in silence. Now he would give her peace and presence. Whatever came next, they would face it together, and this time, there would be no secrets. The following weeks unfolded with a new rhythm, one neither David nor Anna had ever known before. For years, their life had revolved around Anna shielding her weakness, pretending everything was fine, while David chased his ambitions in blissful ignorance. But now, the truth sat between them, and strangely, it did not destroy them. Instead, it drew them closer. David rearranged his work schedule, something he had never considered doing before. Meetings were postponed, deadlines renegotiated, and trips cancelled. His colleagues noticed the change, but for the first time in his career, David didn't care what people thought. His priority was his mother. Every morning, he prepared her breakfast, making sure she ate more than just a few spoonfuls of oatmeal. He drove her to her appointments, never letting her sit alone in the sterile waiting rooms. He listened carefully to every word the doctors said, taking notes, asking questions, things he wished he could have done years ago. Anna, at first, resisted. "David, you don't need to hover over me. I've been doing this on my own for so long." But David only smiled, his voice steady. "And you shouldn't have had to. Not anymore." Slowly, Anna began to accept his presence, his care. And with that acceptance came moments David would treasure forever. Some afternoons, they would sit together on the porch, sipping tea while the sun melted into the horizon. Anna would tell him stories he had never heard before, about her own childhood, about his father, about the nights she stayed awake worrying whether she could afford his school supplies. "You never noticed how tired I was," she said once, chuckling softly. "I used to wait until you were asleep before I let myself cry." David swallowed hard, wishing he could erase every tear she had shed in silence. "I notice now, Mom. And I'm here. Every single day." There was one particular evening when the bond between them deepened in an unexpected way. Anna had been especially weak after a round of treatment, her body trembling as she tried to climb the stairs. Without hesitation, David scooped her up in his arms, just as she had once carried him when he was small. She protested at first, embarrassed, but then rested her head against his shoulder, whispering, "You've grown so strong, David. Stronger than I ever dreamed." That night, as he tucked her into bed, he realized something profound. Their roles had reversed. The woman who had once sacrificed everything to shield him now needed his protection. And he would not fail her, but amid the closeness, there was also an unspoken shadow. The illness was still there, relentless, ticking away like an unseen clock. David felt it every time Anna winced in pain, every time her breath grew short. He knew their time together was not endless. And that knowledge haunted him. One night, unable to sleep, David sat by her bedside, watching her fragile chest rise and fall. He remembered the nights of his childhood when she had sat by his bed during fevers, cooling his forehead with a damp cloth. The roles had reversed, but the love remained the same, unshakable, unending. He leaned close, whispering words he wasn't sure she could hear. "I love you, Mom. More than I can ever say. And I'm so sorry I didn't see sooner. But I see now. I see everything." Her eyes fluttered open, and she gave him a weak but radiant smile. "That's all I ever wanted, David, for you to see me. Not the illness, not the sacrifice. Just me." In that fragile, tender moment, David finally understood. His mother's greatest gift had never been in hiding her suffering. It had been in showing him what true strength looked like, quiet, patient, enduring, and now, his gift to her would be presence. No more secrets. No more running. Whatever time remained, they would fill it together, with truth, with love, with moments that mattered. The crispness of autumn arrived, painting the trees outside Anna's window with shades of amber and gold. For David, each falling leaf was a reminder that time was slipping by, that every day with his mother was both a gift and a countdown. He tried to make the most of every moment. Some mornings, he would wake early and cook her favorite breakfast, scrambled Eggs with chives, toast with just the right amount of butter. They would eat slowly, talking about everything and nothing. Other days, he would bring out old photo albums, and together they would laugh at pictures of his awkward teenage years, Anna's old hairstyles, and the houseplants she never could keep alive. These small rituals became sacred. One afternoon, as the sun filtered through the window, David asked a question he had long avoided. "Mom, were you ever angry with me? For not seeing what you were going through all those years?" Anna looked at him for a long moment before answering. Her voice was gentle, steady. "No, David. Never. I didn't hide it because I wanted you to feel guilty. I hid it because I wanted you to live freely, without burden. That was my choice. My love for you wasn't measured in what you knew, but in what I could spare you from." Her words cut deep, not because they accused, but because they forgave. David felt tears prick at his eyes. "But you deserved better. You deserved someone to stand by you." Anna reached across the blanket, squeezing his hand with surprising strength. "And I had that. I had you, even if you didn't know it. Watching you grow, seeing you succeed, that gave me more strength than any medicine." That night, David wrote in a journal he had started since learning the truth. He filled its pages with memories, promises, and letters to his mother, letters she might never read, but that he needed to write. In them, he confessed his regrets, his gratitude, and his fear of losing her. Writing became his way of holding on, of preserving what words spoken aloud could not fully capture. Weeks passed. The doctors adjusted treatments, but there was no disguising the inevitable. Anna's body grew weaker, her steps shorter, her rest longer. And yet, there was also peace in her eyes, as if she had finally been unburdened of the secret she carried for so long. One evening, when the house was quiet, and the air heavy with the smell of rain, Anna spoke of something David hadn't expected. "I want you to promise me something." "Anything," David said, leaning closer. "When I'm gone, don't let this house just be a place of sadness. Fill it with laughter, with love. Build a family of your own someday. And remember me not as the woman who hid her illness, but as the mother who was proud to raise a son strong enough to carry her memory." David felt his throat tighten. "I promise, Mom. I'll keep you alive in everything I do." The following Sunday, David brought Anna to the park where she used to take him as a child. He wheeled her along the winding paths, the crisp air carrying the scent of pine. She closed her eyes, tilting her face toward the breeze. "I used to sit here and watch you play," she murmured. "You were so fearless, climbing trees, falling down, getting back up. I always wondered if you would grow into that courage." David smiled, holding her hand. "I think I finally have, thanks to you." They sat in silence, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple. For the first time in years, there were no secrets between them, no walls. Only truth, love, and the quiet acceptance that their journey together was nearing its final chapter. That night, as David tucked his mother into bed, he realized something had shifted inside him. The fear of losing her was still there, but it was no longer paralyzing. Instead, it fueled his resolve to make every remaining day count, because love, he understood now, wasn't about holding on forever. It was about showing up, fully and fiercely, until the very end. Winter crept in quietly, frosting the windows and draping the neighborhood in silence. Inside the house, time felt suspended. The Christmas lights David strung across the porch glowed softly each night, more for Anna than for anyone passing by. Anna grew frilier, her body yielding to the illness she had fought in secret for so long. But in her weakness, there was also a strange serenity. She smiled more often, spoke more softly, and carried a quiet dignity that humbled David each time he looked at her. Every evening, David read aloud to her, sometimes from the old novels she loved, sometimes from his own journal entries. One night, he read a letter he had written. "Dear Mom, you taught me strength by carrying burdens I never saw. You taught me love by giving without asking. And you taught me courage, not the kind that roars, but the kind that endures quietly. I want you to know that everything I am, and everything I will ever become, is because of you. Love, David." When he finished, Anna's eyes glistened. She reached for his hand. "That's all I ever wanted, to know I mattered. Thank you, my son. January's chill deepened. Anna's time was drawing near, and they both felt it. One night, the snow fell thick outside as David sat by her bedside. Her breaths were shallow, her voice barely more than a whisper. "David," she murmured, "don't be afraid when I go. My love doesn't end here. It will stay with you, in every choice you make, in every step you take." Tears blurred his vision. "I don't want to let you go, Mom." She smiled faintly. "You don't have to. I'll always be with you, just differently." The next morning, as dawn painted the horizon with pale light, Anna passed peacefully in her sleep, her hand resting in her son's. David sat in silence, holding on to her, the room filled with both unbearable grief and profound gratitude. The funeral was simple, as she had wished. Friends, neighbors, and colleagues came to pay their respects, many sharing stories David had never heard, how Anna had quietly helped a struggling neighbor, mentored a young coworker, or given comfort to someone in need. David realized then that her love had reached far beyond him. She had left pieces of herself in everyone she touched. After the service, David stood alone by her grave. The cold air bit at his cheeks, but he barely felt it. He whispered, "I'm sorry it took me so long to see the truth. But I see it now, Mom. And I'll live in a way that honors you." Snowflakes drifted down, landing softly on the fresh earth. David closed his eyes, letting the silence wash over him. It was the beginning of a life without her, but also the continuation of everything she had instilled in him. In the weeks that followed Anna's passing, David's grief was sharp and unrelenting. The house felt impossibly quiet, every corner echoing with her absence. At times, he found himself reaching for the phone to call her, only to remember she was gone. But slowly, something shifted. Instead of being consumed by what he had lost, David began to lean into what she had given him. He reread her letters, replayed her words in his mind, and revisited the memories they had created in those final months together. One day, he found himself standing in the kitchen, cooking scrambled eggs the way she had taught him. He set the table for one, yet when he sat down, he didn't feel alone. He felt her presence in the sunlight streaming through the window, in the scent of the food, in the steady beat of his own heart. David also threw himself into work with a renewed sense of purpose. He no longer chased success for its own sake. Instead, he sought to create, to inspire, to give, just as his mother had done quietly all her life. He volunteered at a local support group for people caring for sick relatives, sharing his story with others who felt the same guilt and grief. To his surprise, his vulnerability gave them strength. Months passed, and seasons turned. Grief did not vanish, but it softened, becoming a companion rather than an enemy. David understood now that love and loss were intertwined, that the depth of his pain was proof of the depth of his mother's love. On the first anniversary of Anna's passing, David returned to the park where they had once sat together watching the sunset. He carried with him a single white rose, which he laid gently at the base of their favorite tree. Then he sat on the bench, looking out at the children running, their laughter filling the air. He smiled, remembering her words, "Don't let this house just be a place of sadness. Fill it with laughter, with love." And he realized he was doing just that. Every time he shared her story, every time he extended kindness, every time he chose love over fear, he was keeping her alive. Anna's legacy was not only in the son she raised but in the way her quiet sacrifices continued to ripple outward, touching lives she never knew. For David, the greatest revelation was this: while he had found out, too late, about her illness, it was not too late to honor her. Not too late to live in a way that reflected her strength, her compassion, and her unshakable love. As he rose from the bench, a sense of peace settled over him. He could move forward, not by leaving her behind, but by carrying her with him. Always, because some bonds, he now understood, are unbreakable. Even death cannot sever the love of a mother and her child. If you've made it this far, take a moment, just one moment, to think about someone in your life who has quietly carried you, supported you, or sacrificed for you without asking for anything in return. It could be your mother, your father, a sibling, a spouse, or even a friend who has stood by you in silence. Anna's story reminds us that sometimes the people we love most are the very ones who hide their pain so that we don't have to carry it. They give us their strength, even when they have so little left. And too often, we don't realize the depth of their sacrifice until it's too late, but it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to wait for a goodbye to say thank you. You don't have to wait for loss to say I love you. You don't have to wait for regret to finally see what has been in front of you all along. So tonight, after this video ends, I encourage you to pick up your phone, or even better, walk into the next room, and tell that person what they mean to you. Don't wait for a special occasion. Don't wait for the right moment. The right moment is now. Tell them, I see you. I appreciate you. I love you. Those simple words can heal wounds, strengthen bonds, and remind the people we love that their sacrifices were not invisible. And if you're watching this and you've lost someone like Anna, if your chance to say those words has already slipped away, know this: it's not too late to honor them. You can live your life in a way that carries their love forward. Every act of kindness, every step of courage, every expression of love can be a tribute to the life they gave for you. Here on Real Moments, we share stories like Anna's because they're not just stories. They're lessons. They're mirrors. They're reminders that time is fragile, love is sacred, and regret is the heaviest burden any of us can carry. So let Anna's story move you to action. Don't just feel the emotion, do something with it. Say the words. Make the call. Give the hug. Write the letter. Because one day, you'll look back, and the moments you chose love will be the moments you treasure most. And finally, if this story touched your heart, please share it with someone you love. Maybe they need to hear this reminder too. Subscribe to this channel for more true stories like this, stories that remind us of the power of love, sacrifice, and redemption. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for carrying these stories forward. Together, we can make sure that no love goes unnoticed, and no sacrifice goes unremembered, because in the end, the greatest gift we can give is not just to be loved, but to let the people we love know that they mattered, while they're still here.